Neil leaves the hospital and steals a car. Meanwhile, Chris buys the tools they need, and Michael picks up Weinker in another stolen car. Tree has a different task, to follow the car with the money. As the operation approaches its final stage, they don masks to conceal their identities and block the road, giving Michael the opportunity to ram the car. The security guards call for help, but the team has already breached the doors and removed the guards. Chris inspects the car, collecting the items they need. They realize that the police will be here soon, so they place spikes all over the street. Linero likes that the security guard doesn't follow his orders, not realizing that the explosion has left them shell-shocked and confused. Eventually, Wingre eliminates them. The team gets into the ambulance and drives away. The police try to chase them, but the spikes pop their tires. They are forced to stop. To erase all evidence, the team destroys their vehicle. Later, Neil visits Neaton. He's an expert in money laundering. Inside the stolen envelope, there were over 100 million worth of shares. Their plan is to force the bondholder to pay the money so they can return it to them. However, they need to be aware that the authorities are on their trail. Detective Vincent is leading the search. They've collected all the stolen cars, but it's not enough. Although they've had some luck, a man overheard the gang using the nickname Lofach. The surveillance cameras have been tampered with, but it's worth checking just in case. The gang is sitting in a cafe trying to figure out the mistakes in their operation. Weinker says that he accidentally eliminated a security guard, which infuriates Neil as it will make the police look for them more thoroughly. Once outside, Weinker receives more insults. Neil is ready to kill him, but the police arrive on the scene. They wait for the cops to leave, but Weinker has disappeared. Despite their efforts, they are unable to find him. Chris returns home, only to find that his wife has less money than he had promised. This causes a fight, and he admits that he spent some of the money on betting. Charlene tries to. He comes home and his wife tells him that he brought less money than he said he did. They have an argument, and he admits that he spent some of the money on betting. Charlene tries to convince him to stop, which angers Chris even more, and he leaves. A new day begins. Vincent arrives at the pawn shop. The owner is their mole. The detective threatens him with imprisonment if he doesn't provide them with the information they need. And then the man gives a tip where you can meet Neil, who is talking to Kels. He has information about a new case, robbing banks in the city center. The money is distributed from there. For smaller banks, you can take more than 10 million. Neil thinks it's too risky. Then Kelsey says he's a great hacker and can disable the alarms before the team enters the bank. Congratulations. When Neil returns to his home, he finds Chris sleeping on the floor. Neil calls Charlene and tells her where her husband is. Chris explains about the family problems. Neil decides to ask if Charlene is cheating on him. Chris replies no. However, that day, Neil sees Charlene leaving a hotel room with a man and stops her. Charlene claims it was a business meeting. Neil obviously doesn't believe her and asks Charlene to give Chris another chance. Their next assignment will fix everything. And if Chris spends his money again, he'll deal with him himself. Later in the evening, Vincent arrives at the location he was told about. A new man recognizes the nickname Lucky and helps him find Michael. Moreover, his file is already in their database. Neil meets with the man they're dealing with. The armed man approaches Neil slowly, but Chris sees him and hands Neil over. He immediately backs off, biting the man up. Another gangster tries to escape, but Michael is waiting at the exit, sending him to the next world. Neil no longer wants to cooperate with Roger and promises to kill him. This afternoon, the police find their gang and recognize Chris. Meanwhile, Weinker has been hiding a dark secret from his team. He eliminates the prostitutes. He was hiding a terrible secret from his team. He was eliminating the girls of easy virtue. A couple of days later, the team breaks into the metal vault and Chris starts to break the safe. The police were watching everything from the van, but one man accidentally hits the body with his rifle. Neil notices this shum and asks the team to leave. Vincent lets them go as breaking in is not such a big punishment. Then they find Charlene's boyfriend and start interrogating. Neil is sure that the police have found them and are listening to the phone. Now they have to fill in the bottom so as not to attract too much attention. The problem is that Chris needs money, and he convinces Neil to complete the bank robbery. They arrive at the port to plan their next move. However, the police are watching them. When the robbers leave, the police try to figure out what they want to steal. Vincent realizes that this is a trap to test the robbers' surveillance skills. And that's exactly what happens. Neil takes photos of every police officer. Nathan collects information about them and passes it on to Neil, adding to the information from the bank. Later, Vincent catches Neil, who agrees to talk in private. At a cafe, Vincent admits that he doesn't like killing, but he can eliminate Neil if it helps save the lives of ordinary citizens. Neil shares the same opinion. A new day begins. The team secretly infiltrates the bank and prepares for the mission. During lunch, Neil notices Donald. They met in prison, and Donald is currently on parole. They are interrupted by Trejo, who is sure that the police are following him. He tells them that he won't be able to help them with the robbery. They offer Donald a place on their team, and he immediately accepts. Now Donald has nothing to stop him from pushing his boss. The day arrives. Michael, Neil, and Chris enter the bank. While Neil puts on his mask, Chris subdues the security guard. Neil tells the employees that they won't lose their money due to insurance. They need to sit still, and everyone will be safe. The police have received a report of a bank robbery. They need to stay quiet, and then everyone will be safe. The police received a report of a bank robbery. Michael, with his bags full, gets into Donald's car. Neil follows suit. However, Chris notices a police officer and starts shooting. The police are forced to respond. Several officers are killed in the process. While Vincent checks on his friend, the gangsters attempt to escape. However, they are unable to drive far. The cars malfunction due to Donald's death, and new police officers are positioned ahead. The gangsters run from car to car. Don't forget to eliminate the police officers. The fire is too intense, and one of the bullets hits Chris. Neil picks up Chris and helps him to a safer location. He even manages to turn around and shoot at the pursuers. The gang steals a car and drives away, leaving Michael alone, and he dies. The news reports on the incident. Donald's girlfriend is devastated by his death. Charlene is also shocked. Chris is lucky. They have a medic who is ready to remove the bullet. It also pierced his collarbone. He will have to stay here and wait for Neil to come get him. Neil thinks that the three of them have been betrayed by the police. He breaks into their house and finds the three of them in a state of shock. It turns out that Weingra and Roger forced them to contact the police and threaten their wife. However, even after they followed their orders, they were still eliminated. Neil then goes to Roger and asks him where Weingra is hiding. Roger replies, "I don't know why he's getting shot at." Meanwhile, the police are taking Charlene's child away because her boyfriend is cooperating with them. They're asking Charlene to help them, and if she keeps quiet, she'll be involved. Neil returns to his house and asks the girl to leave. She realizes that he's a robber and tries to run away, but he catches up with her and gives her some money. Neil then receives fake identification from Neaton. He asks about Chris, and Neaton replies, "I went to see my wife. It was a trap, but since Sherlyn didn't want him to get caught, she tells him it's dangerous." And Chris went to see his wife. It was a setup trap, but since Sherlyn didn't want him to get caught, she tells him it's dangerous, and Chris leaves. Charlene says it's not Chris. The police stop him on the other side of the street and check his ID. He gives them a fake ID and they let him go. Neil leaves town with his girlfriend, but Nathan ruins everything. He finds out where Vingru is. "I have to leave the girl and go after the traitor." A fight breaks out, followed by elimination. The police have already surrounded the hotel. Neil runs in the other direction, leaving the girl behind. They run to the airfield where the plane lands. The light from the headlights reveals Neil, and Vincent reacts by inflicting several injuries. The film ends with a handshake between them. We would appreciate your like. We will be back soon. Bye.